my little piece by piece, I take back what's been stolen.
Hi, hello. Welcome to the Place of Wrath and Tears. It is episode 5?
4
of the Red Intermission, where there is no math test. Welcome to the Place of Wrath and Tears, the Red Intermission, where there are no math tests and all of the rituals are open book. Welcome. This is a small story about a pair of monsters. Neatly wedged into a longer story about some other monsters that are more human.
Some human monsters.
Human monsters.
You know, the real monsters are the friends we made along the way.
What happened at the end of last game? Where did we end?
We had a lovely dinner at a late night diner.
That's right. Because
we did a nice thing for a waitress and then headed off for a dead drop. And we caught a glimpse of some others who are also interested in the dealings of the Red Lady and David.
Yes, including someone who looks rather a bit like Bethany Van Horst.
Certainly sounds like her.
Yeah. All right. So right now it is, we can probably say it's the next day-ish. Mm-hmm. And it is the mid-morning. And David and the Red Lady are shopping at a tiny little hardware store, which is as profoundly incongruous as you can imagine. So absolutely, David is carrying things. I don't even think that we're going to pretend that he's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
the Red Lady, of all things, has a shopping list, has an actual pencil and paper, and is crossing things off her list. Nails, a hammer, things to build within St. Dymphna's. Because while they have the Lady Radium building them the lighthouse light, they still need things like a frame for it, so it will point the direction it needs to go. And other equipment to make it run in the way that she wants to run. It's not all esoteric magic and candles and witchery. You also need sometimes to go to the hardware store.
Sometimes you need to go to the hardware store. There is no project that cannot be improved with the application of borax. Great stuff. So
that's your Red Intermission quote of the day.
Yeah. So what's the lady's mood right now?
Pretty pleased. Yesterday went better than she could have expected. David stepped up to the task admirably. She may have even gained a modicum of, dare I say, trust? Perhaps camaraderie?
Maybe.
Just a little hint of maybe even getting along. And, you know, she answered some questions. She did make direct contact with Bethany Van Horst for just a moment. She saw a little bit of the past, a little bit of the future, because time is a little wiggly when you're dealing with magic. So she has a pretty good sense of where they need to go, what they need to do, the order they need to do it in, and how she can light the way.
All right.
So all things considered, she's doing pretty great. How's David?
I think David is still deep in his denial close. So generally, he's in a bit of a good mood. As much as David doesn't seem to express like a lot of actual physical attraction interest, he is a decent flirt when the mood so takes him. So he has been very gently charming the wife of the elderly husband and wife that run the little hardware store.
Certainly.
Yeah. And so he's been putting things up there as kind of as as his hands get full, he's just been walking them up there and talking to her for a couple of minutes. Like it's nothing untoward, but it's just, the little thing you do to make the little old lady blush and titter.
She thinks he is just the most charming young man.
Yes. Yeah. Are you married? Where's your mom from? That kind of thing.
Which is good. It helps balance out her being slightly uneasy with the Red Lady.
Yeah.
Because anyone this self-assured and this fancy looks like they don't normally go into a hardware store. So what's your deal? The old lady,
the Red Lady absolutely looks like someone who sends people to the hardware store.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes if you need the job done right.
Yeah. All right. So the things are generally going along. What is the next step of your plan, Red Lady? What is the next thing you want to do?
Well, we need to get all of this into the boot of the car, certainly.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of things, and there are some pieces of lumber that need to be transported. They will fit in the car, but, they're a little unwieldy to just carry out there.
Yeah. And if all else fails, I'm sure that, $5 and a smile will get somebody's truck following you guys back to Dimphna's.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then she has a couple other small errands to run. Really, she needs more candles more than anything else, and other household things that can be turned into ritual supplies.
Okay. So kind of the esoteric version of the anarchist's cookbook.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do you think you want to go next? Like, you think you're going to have to go, like, where do you plan on getting those candles in 1957?
Well, where does one get borax in 1957?
Oh, you get it from the hardware store.
Oh, all right. Well, that's already taken care of then.
Yeah.
Candles, you might have to go to a specialty store. In the 50s, I'm trying to think.
Probably a department store.
That was the concept I was missing. Your Macy's, your Sears, your things like that, the department store.
Yeah. Okay.
I realize the only candles I regularly buy in real life are Shabbos candles, and you can just get those at the grocery store in the kosher section. So.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
So yes, a department store, of which there are several in Las Vegas already.
Yes.
Quite large and successful ones.
Exactly. And as you put one little thing that you thought of kind of as you were doing one last loop around the store, you found something that you decided you liked. Maybe it's some nails made out of solid brass, just in case there's a metals issue with something else. And you put them on the table and look up just in time for, you hear David, his voice kind of not echoing, but traveling down the small store. And he says, well, it looks like she's about done. How about you start ringing us up, Gladys, and I'll go open the trunk of the car. He says, oh, okay. And he goes, and as he turns, you can't see the front of the store. You're at a perpendicular aisle, but you see David turn and his eyes get big and his body stance changes, and you can almost watch him snap modes like he's spring-loaded. And he drops what he's holding. The little jar of something, drops it, and it clunk and starts to roll, and he starts fast walking out the door.
We'll pay for that, of course, and one extra. I'll be right back. And showing some genuine confusion, which is not a feeling she likes, she needs to go follow him and investigate what exactly is going on.
David is standing on the thing that's next to the door in the road, the sidewalk.
There you go.
and his eyes are wide and he is breathing heavily, but he is not panting. He is taking in air. He is scenting. And he has a look on his face that is intense and confused, almost unto panic. And the only other time you've seen this so far with David, you've seen it 2 times. You saw the edges of it the first time he showed up at your house, when he thought he was going to have to kill you to save the Van Horsts, oh so long ago. And then last night, when he heard Bethany screaming. And this one, and he takes another deep breath and he says, I saw her.
Who?
Bethany. I saw her.
It's possible there are other Bethany's meandering about.
No, she smelled like her. The other one didn't. She smelled like her. She uses the same shampoo.
Your Bethany, my Bethany, is in Metropolis. We know this. We're trying to get them back.
No one else uses that shampoo. I know the smell. I know the smell. I know all of them. There is no chance that anyone could be using all of the exact same things. It's her, and she went this way.
We need to go pay that nice lady for all of these supplies we're trying to purchase.
And he starts walking away from you, Red Lady.
David? David!
He does not turn around.
She power walks back into the store, opens her purse, thumbs out the correct number of bills, slams them on the table, and goes, I'm dealing with something. We'll be right back. Please hold it all for me. And power walks back out to follow David.
She sees David pausing at a major intersection and once again taking deep scenting breaths before his head snaps to the side and he looks with that hunter-killer eyes and starts heading down that street.
With a move that is definitely too quick for a human to make. She is suddenly in front of him, right in his path, because she is in Metropolis.
I can smell her.
She's not here.
I trust my nose more than I trust your words.
Fine.
And he rattles off a list of 10 different care items. Every single thing that Bethany uses in her shampoo, lotions, powders, everything. He rattles off the entire list. He says,
all of which are only available at the finest bespoke boutiques. These are not your department store items.
Exactly. And he says, you tell me, what are the chances of someone that looks just like Bethany using all of those things?
I don't believe in chance, David. You ought to be as suspicious of this as I am.
I have to know.
You have to know.
I have to know.
And my word isn't good enough.
And he pushes past you.
Do you want to do the divination next time? Would that convince you?
He stops and you can see the anger in him and he just kind of flexes his hands and then he fucking keeps walking. it seems that the mania, the obsession that he has about the Van Horst and specifically Bethany is more deeply placed than you thought.
And she somewhat impotently goes, "We have items waiting at the car," which is one of the most human things she's done probably ever in her whole existence.
Yes.
She is so flabbergasted that she just kind of stands there for a second on the street corner, overdressed, pencil still in one hand, pointing back to where the hardware store was.
David even has the fucking keys.
Because of course he does. She takes a second to collect herself. He's still stuck in his human. He's stuck in his human. He's stuck in his human. And this is a mantra she's repeating to herself. And continues to follow him.
And it's interesting how that he is stuck in his human is used in the same tone of voice that someone would say they are not mentally well. Like they are not okay. This is not them. This is a thing that is affecting them.
Yep.
So do you stalk David or do you try to catch up with him?
For now, just stalk him. Let him get it out of his system. Let him get to the end of the scent trail. And if need be, she will project some of what she saw into his frustrating little mind so he will understand that whoever is walking these streets cannot, in any possible permutation of reality, be the Bethany that we want.
Yes. But really, what are the chances of someone being able to match that scent? Who would even know that much about her?
Probably another Bethany.
Do you think that the other Bethanies can pull that much information?
The question is, would any of the other Bethanies have that much money? Because none of those items are cheap.
No. It is that very distinct combination of wealth and access that makes that smell.
Mm-hmm. But she doesn't believe in coincidences. There might be something here, and it is probably worth David following this scent to its conclusion. But really now, here,
must we?
We have so much else to do. Hi. Wednesday says hi.
Yes. This stream brought to you by Cat Ass.
Just a tail, just one tail.
Oh, the Eye of Sauron's looking at me.
Now it's actually a Wrath and Tear stream because a cat showed up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And presented their butt.
Yes.
Baby.
So the stalk isn't that terribly hard, aside from the fact that it is clearly a twisting path. I mean, it is definitely down a street and then through an alley and then up another street. It is absolutely a twisting and turning path.
We are just getting further and further and way away from the damn hardware store and the car.
Yes. And the next thing that matters is that you kind of open up, you go down an alley, take a right, and the buildings beside you open up and you are presented with a significantly larger portion of the cannibal desert to your field of vision that you are normally used to. You have suddenly and very quickly stepped into the liminal space between the desert and the conquering city. The air changes, the texture of it changes, and you are fairly certain that you can see David. There is flitting between pieces, there is you don't know if it's a casino, because the casino should be on the main drag. It's some large building, maybe big enough to be a casino or a warehouse or something, but it's a half-constructed building, so there's concrete and there's girders sticking out of the ground, and there's some tarps covering things and some piles of bricks and other stuff. And you can see David kind of drifting between the pieces of that, still in his almost kind of that flicker step, that spring-loaded switchblade walk.
And at that point, she finally catches up to him and says, and clearly trying to keep her calm, do you have something of your Bethany, my Bethany? If so, I might be able to aid in your search.
How about you roll influence?
Sure.
Because she's pissed, and for him to admit what he has is going to be a thing.
Well, I just rolled a 15, so...
Well.
It's higher than that. It is 19.
Yeah. Yep, so you're good. He looks at you, and he pulls out a little tin, like one of those tiny little pressed aluminum things that you would get matches in, or one of a dozen other things. And in it is a piece of hair.
Like a full lock of hair?
Yeah.
And swipes it from his hand slightly too fast because her grip on the illusion is highly dependent on her being irritated. And she opens it up and she pauses and she decides not to ask him why the fuck he has this, because this is kind of weird.
Kind of, yeah.
Takes very delicately 3 hairs from the rest of the lock, snaps it shut, hands it back. And she takes the 3 hairs and she suspends them in the air in front of her. So the 3 of them stay. And she starts braiding them together. Just these teeny, tiny motions to make a braid out of these 3 strands of hair. And as she does that, she is muttering magical incantations.
Okay.
In a language he probably recognizes at this point, but still has no hope of understanding.
Oh, no, not at all.
And all she wants to do is check the aura that is attached to this scent and try and figure out if it's the one they're looking for. Because even identical Bethanies, because of the way they were raised, that nature versus nurture, that nurture gives them a different aura.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to roll for Magique.
Mm-hmm. 2 or 20?
Well, there's a 1 and a 4.
Ooh.
So that's an 8.
Yep.
And I'm not going to push it because I feel like that's very appropriate to this story beat.
Yeah. So what you do is you do a very great job of connecting this piece of Bethany hair to the nearest Bethany.
Well, we are definitely following a Bethany.
The problem is that it does it in such a, like, obviously kind of dowsing way that it slips out of your hand and, like, does the animated leaf twiddle down through the construction yard. And you probably could have kept David there with something less dramatic, but that connection and that response was too much for him to sit through. And
he's going to go chase that leaf.
He is GAWN gone.
And she lets out a long string of something under her breath that is definitely that strange eldritch language, but is clearly a string of fuck words.
Yes. This fucking guy.
The ancient Enochian fuck words. And she stalks after him. And at this point, it's not stalking the action sense. It is stalking the moving one foot in front of the other sense. She is cartoonishly irritated, and it is starting to come through.
This is a pretty big construction site. And with your focus so heavily on David and Bethany and the magic ritual that worked too well and not as well as you wanted it to, your senses of the strength of the illusion are a little behind. And so as you stalk through, and it's kind of, there's things in the way, and it's very, and it's a, because you kind of have that like when you're in a department store, because that's what we were talking about earlier, and you go, well, I just need to get around here, and then I just need to get around here, and I just need to get around here, and that should put me right back at a completely different department. Like, it's that
This
sense.
isn't hand towels at all.
Yes. And that is what you get, which for the Red Lady is a little bit more jarring than for your average, red-blooded American human.
She can usually read Elysium like a map. She has an innate sense of direction that is very worrying when it doesn't work right.
This was so slick and slippery, this transition into this in-between space, that it's almost like someone built this construction site specifically to create that very smooth transition. And behind you, you hear a ting to ting to ting, the sound of metal bouncing on concrete, like being drugged by something. And then you hear other sounds of boot soles, shoe soles kind of grinding the dust underneath them and breathing. And it is not calm, cool breathing. It is the bared teeth panting of primate rage.
She spins around to look behind her, and every move she makes has the ghost of a train spinning with her. It's Evil Queen from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs every time she moves. It is a regal air, but it is also, won't go so far as to say anxious, but it is increasingly situationally aware.
Yes.
And it is a quick realization that this is not where she expected to be.
No. The things that step out of the obfuscation of this construction area rapidly increase in worrisome. When you first see them, they just look like hobos. A little bit dirty, a little bit run down. The kind of people that look like they live on the backs of trains. The kind of people that started transient one day to survive and just never figured out how to stop. Normally, these kind of people living on the edges would be some of your favorite types of people. But right now, they are your least favorite type of people. Something has filled them. And they have weapons. Not... Sorry, guys, I've had a chest cold all week, and talking is kicking my ass a little bit more than I expected it to.
Dramatic pause.
Yeah. And Yeah. The weapons are things like rebar. One has a kitchen knife. One has a crowbar. There's even a mud trowel, a bricklayer's trowel. But the part that makes you very concerned, or that should make you very concerned, is the fact that all of them have looping but somehow angular pieces of script on them. Long looping Fibonacci spirals connected by vertices.
A language they should not know.
That they absolutely should not know.
And she reaches out with her mind and discovers there is no room for her within them. And that's at the point where the hackles really go up. She moves fully into not only big cat territory, but big cat flexing, that tail getting poofier, the back arching.
The space that you would want to climb into their mind and do something with is filled, but it is not filled like a strong human mind. It is like someone has opened their skull and packed it full of filth. Like rotten meat overpacked into a meat grinder. The mechanisms of it are jammed up and full of rot and grime. And a terrible, terrible, monstrous urge to overpower. They see something that is greater than them, and they are insulted by it. And there's kind of a pack struggle vibe, as if whoever strikes you down shall gain some kind of notoriety in this little feral social unit.
She says, with an almost Jedi mind trick kind of wave of her hand, pulling at the threads of madness that are within that filth.
Mm-hmm.
She says, leave me and you will remember nothing of this day. You will be the better for it.
The one that you were looking at directly, holding the piece of rebar that is scrawled with that script, does something that you wish you didn't see. It almost instinctually waves that bar in front of it and cuts the threads that you were pulling.
Fuck.
And that is when they descend.
Right as her hands are up, ready to pull more of the threads and make another one of those cat's cradles to perhaps catch all of them at once in her web, she doesn't have time to do it.
But what do you want to do right now? Look at your general moves list, unless you have something off your character sheet.
I will look at my general moves list real quick. Well, since magic didn't work, she would like to produce a classic angelic weapon, a flaming sword.
Okay.
Because apparently, that's what we're doing today.
Okay. How does it feel to have to resort to such crude anachronisms?
Oh, it's not fucking good.
No, it is not.
Not good. It is not tasty. It is a straight up tear in the illusion, even within this slick and slimy place. And it feels wrong. And it feels wrong in her hand without pulling back the rest of the illusion. But what the fuck is going on? These people have things they should not have, and they don't know, but they know. They know they're holding something they don't understand, but they know how to use it. And fine.
Something has taught them or implanted this thought in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you should be rolling to engage in combat.
I think I will do that.
Okay.
Combat is, where'd you go? Oh no, you're at the top, not the bottom. 13 total.
Okay. So that is, you do okay. I keep forgetting that I actually have a copy of this book, which is kind of funny. Engage in combat. You inflict damage, but at a cost. Oh, you're subjected to a counterattack.
Reasonable. I think she takes one out completely, just a clean severing of the head, but there's more than one.
Yes, absolutely.
And she is decidedly off balance.
This is really almost possibly the first time you've had to go like this in a while.
In a long time. A long time.
Now in this moment, maybe one could even say too long.
Might do.
Okay.
If only she still had someone to answer to.
Yes.
To give her strength in faith. But no, that vanished in the trenches.
Yes, it did.
Here we are.
And at the very least, it would be nice to have a mook.
Sure would. Gosh, we'll deal with that later.
You and I will talk about that in a minute. Okay. How about you try to avoid harm?
Sure. And that's just rolling another...
For you, it's plus combat. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Excuse me. 16.
Okay, great. You emerge completely unharmed. So the first couple of them are clearly, they're not combat trained. The most fighting that these vessels have ever done is a few drunken fist fights, maybe a lead pipe to a kidney or a back of the head in a dire moment. But to come at someone straightforward is not really something that they or their bodies are used to. So their swings are there are several of them, but they are slow and they're a little bit ungainly. And so you knock one out of the way with your unsword and avoid another one. But you can hear the words on that knife whisper in your ear as it goes past you. They are pronounced poorly and it is sloppy, but you recognize it.
And it is. These are words that they should not, could not know.
Mm-hmm. And so it begins. So now you have several people swinging at you, uncoordinated, violent, scary. This is almost an inevitability. Unless you do something very inventive or dramatic. At some point, one of them will get a lucky shot. So, but we'll deal with that when it comes. Right now, what kind of an action do you want to take?
She is going to, for now, keep in hand to hand. She is going to full uppercut with her blade and slice someone clean in two and then thrust through the heart of the next one, because she has been doing this for a few thousand years. She's rusty. She's out of practice, but it's like riding a divine bicycle. And she is pissed. And she is also, if someone knows what to look for, scared.
That is true. So let's roll our engage in combat and see what we get.
That's a 7.
A total of 7?
Wait, no, it's not. A 9. It's a total of 9. A 9.
A total of 9.
Yep.
With combat.
Mm-hmm.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So here's the thing that screws you up, Red Lady. Normally, you're pretty used to being the strongest creature in the room. With a few exceptions, you're generally used to being the baddest motherfucker in the valley. Mm-hmm. And so when you make combat decisions, you make them on the assumption that you are going to win, or at the very least come out even but on top of any sort of a parrying or a block or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so when you do a fencer's thrust, foot forward, whole body engaged, to transfix one of these jackals, when they in what is clearly a disorganized, panicked move, bring that piece of rebar up, you expect to go right through it. It's rebar. It's not even an alloy. It's just whatever shit iron they can't identify. It has some pretty derogatory names that I'm not going to use right now, but that rebar throws blue-green sparks as your blade slides off it, screeching like a living animal.
Fuck.
And you are entirely extended, and your foot is forward, and your weight is forward, and your sword is very much in the wrong place.
Oh, this is going to hurt.
It is going to hurt. So you are going to take some harm.
Yeah.
And so you are going to need to endure injury. Okay. Now, enduring injury is plus combat minus harm.
Okay.
So this is going to be a -5.
Okay.
Two or 20. Okay.
I'm going to change my dice. I think these guys need to go to jail.
Yep. Okay. So the injury is overwhelming.
Okay.
You choose if you are knocked out, take a serious wound, receive a critical wound, but that's almost dead.
Okay.
Or die. However, I think what we're going to do is we're going to mark off 5 harm from your health pool.
From total health. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me make a note. Oh boy. At that, she goes full Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
There is a tiny detonation in the illusion right around her that pushes everyone back. Because it is what she emits. If you were in the fullness of reality, might be a scream.
Okay.
But with these waves of illusion around her and around these creatures, it is so much more than a scream. It is the sound of modems that don't exist yet. It is a castle falling into absolute rubble. It is the detonation on the proving grounds. It is a scream that ripples reality.
It does. And the thing that makes you scream like that is not just the physical indignities of being stabbed and struck. It is the way these things with their script slide in between the pieces of you. Like the spikes of an Iron Maiden, or the stories of Vlad Dracul's impaling spikes, or even the way people imagine the swords go through the assistant of the magic show. And they go through you and into you, and they expand into yourself, and they clutch at the pieces of you, because these construction tools are somehow written with your name. Someone has taught these humans pieces of your name.
And as they all look at her, getting up, those who have been blown over, some just pushed back but still on their feet, the creature that they see has not truly been seen by human eyes since Gamora. There are eyes, there are wings. It might still be humanoid, or it might be a ball of spinning flame. It's difficult to tell. And she lets out another piercing screech as they feel themselves begin to turn to salt.
How about you roll plus magic and see if you can do it?
Sure will. New dice, new dice, new dice.
New dice.
No whammies. Much better.
What'd you get?
That's a 16.
That's more gooder.
Yeah.
Okay. So, boy. There's about a half a dozen of them to start. You've killed a couple of them. Two of them, it's not calcify. Sodify? That just sounds terrible.
Saltify.
Yeah, crystallize.
There we go, crystallized.
Jeepers creepers. Two of them crystallize enough. But the thing that is even more terrifying is that the crystallization stops at about their elbow from where they're holding those weapons. And you can see the thick half salt, half blood start to ooze from the overlap spot. Sorry, I have been sick all week, and apparently this is still all week.
Dramatic pauses. It's all good.
Dramatic pauses. Yeah. And one of these.
Haha.
Boy, I wish I didn't hate menthol. Anyway. So you eliminate 2 of them, and the other 2 are harmed, but not in a deep way. Their skin has started to crystallize, and one of them has one of their eyes kind of glaze over like a cataract. And they are hurt, but it seems like they are either more closely connected to these pieces of your name, or perhaps they're just a little bit stronger, or you didn't look at them right, or something. But they are still desperately, raggedly compelled. You can almost see the herky-jerky marionette style of their motions. And one of them has the trowel, and the other one actually has like a 4-pound engineer's hammer, which is just an ugly, battered lump of slightly rusty steel on a short handle. And that is the one that is coming at you right now. And when it lifts the hammer, you see right on the striking face is the term of endearment that Malkuth used for you.
Whoa. No, you fucking don't. No, you do not.
And you look at it and you see it, and the hammer starts to sink and strike down at you like a comet. For those of you that don't use hammers, a 4-pound engineer's hammer is enough to absolutely fucking kill a human in one shot. Like, it is a deadly hunk of metal. And so with essentially a secret name for the Red Lady that no one should know, quite frankly, whistling down at their head, you need to avoid harm.
I do. I surely do. That is a 15.
Okay, good. That's, gotta say, I'm actually really happy about that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No one is happier than the Red Lady. And she sidesteps that downswing with reflexes that are too fast even to be seen. And so instead of being in front of this slowly crystallizing person, she is standing right next to him.
Okay.
And with the hand that is not holding the sword, she takes him by the throat. Just high enough off the ground where he's slightly off balance. And she, while squeezing his throat, fully unhinges her jaw and consumes the essence of him. His flesh is no good anymore. It's going to be crystals. Mm-hmm. But his essence is hers now.
So, roll to gorge on flesh, which is a plus combat.
15.
Nice. So you regain 3 health levels.
Yes.
And I think we had a moment where we learned where Bethany gets it.
And she will take that moment because she knows it is terrifying to look upon. And once it is done and this person is nothing but salt, she drops the body. And with her free hand, she picks up that hammer and stands there with that flaming sword in one hand, hammer in the other, daring anyone who's left, to come at her.
There is one more. Just one more. and they are just mad enough to try it. So how about you engage in combat?
Surely will. $12.
12. All right. It's not a 9.
Not a 9.
You inflict damage, but at a cost. The GM chooses one. You're subjected to a counterattack. You do less damage than intended. You lose something important. The Red Lady brings that hammer down in a crushing judgment, in a hammer of judgment. And it hits this jackal in the top of their skull and just deforms them across the face, peeling skin and tendons and shattering bone, pulling teeth out, and it is a savage, vicious hit. And the hammer chunks down into the ground, having actually slid from your bloody grip. And the combat is over. And this once human takes a few desperate, wet, bubbling breaths through the ruination of their face, and you can see snot and blood kind of bubble and almost simmer and suck in and out, and then it gets wetter and wetter and slower and softer, and then they just kind of wilt. Not even the dignity of a collapse.
And she lets that flaming sword vanish into wherever it goes. And she picks up a fistful of salt that was once a person and picks up that hammer and smashes the salt into the face of the hammer where that part of her name was. And though it is burning her hand to do so, she mutters the angelic words to erase that sigil.
And you do. And could you ever imagine when you heard that name first that you would ever take the time to remove it from existence?
That is something she will contemplate long and hard in a moment that isn't now. She picks up another fistful of salt, and she picks up the rebar, and she does the same thing, ignoring the burning sensation in the palm of her hand, removing every piece of her true name from every makeshift weapon. It was wrong, it was written wrong, it was pronounced wrong, but it was right enough.
That is exactly true. It is like someone had a bad dream with your name in it, and this is their dream journal.
And the last one, she keeps the piece of rebar, almost for dramatic effect, and drags it behind her once that sigil is gone, the way these jackals dragged it towards her as she stalks David.
Yes. And David is somehow just right around the corner. It feels like, with the death of these jackals, it feels like the illusion is slowly starting to sink its claws into this place again, to render it ordinary, as if the little bit of flex and membranous nature of it died as you showed the jackals the price of looking too deeply at reality.
She gave them the opportunity to look away.
You did. And when you saw David, even though he was in the beginning of kind of a hunter-killer expression, he was still very human. And so when you see him first, which tells you a lot about his mental state, and he has his hands in his pockets in a very casual, he's looking around, but he's clearly trying to problem solve, but he's problem solving that in that like, this is no longer urgent, but now I'm confused. And it's very human. It's very masculine. Like, you're almost entirely certain this is the same posture that he used at some point in, oh yes, the hardware store. As he was reading containers of, I don't know, glue or solvent or whatever, trying to turn your esoteric requirements into modern chemistry. You could, if you wanted to, get a sneak attack on him, if that was your plan, depending on how mad you are.
At first, luckily for David, it is a cold rage. And she lets it flare in a way that is visible. It's not flame, like when you put an extra log on the fire and it finally catches all at once.
Mm-hmm.
But it sort of looks like that. It's a sudden, unexpected brightness that alerts him to her presence. And her illusory self is bedraggled. Her illusory body took every weapon strike that they struck.
Mm-hmm.
If he were to look deeper, he would see damage beneath the illusion as well, but he's not looking there yet.
No.
What he sees is a torn dress and a bloody face and bloody knuckles and burned hands, carrying an overlong piece of rebar trailing out behind her like that train she should have.
And he turns quickly at the sensation and sees you, Red Lady, and absolutely flinches in surprise. And looks around. What happened? And he starts coming towards you. A look of fucking possibly compassion or concern on his face.
With the rebar, without turning her body, she just points it out behind her to where the carnage still lies. These piles of salt and blood and bone and flesh and burning. And says, "You hunted us into a trap. Hunter killer."
How? I would have sensed it. I'm a hunter killer.
You were distracted by something I told you was impossible. But my word isn't good enough. You had to know. Do you know now, hunter killer?
I know enough. It was her. They're gone now, but it was her. It smelled like her. It walked like her.
It wasn't her. I promise you.
Yep.
In the names of every god and every devil and every angel you will ever wish to know, it wasn't her.
Then it was someone who could impersonate her.
Yes, exactly. And you fell for it without a second thought.
What was I supposed to do? Let it go?
Yes. When I told you it wasn't her and it couldn't possibly be her, perhaps you listen. Because perhaps I know things that you don't, and I am doing my best to make sure you know everything you need to know. She is in Metropolis, and now we know there is someone or something else trying to get our attention. And they did.
You know, for someone that fights an impossible, you use that word a whole hell of a lot.
She slaps him.
Human hard or angel hard?
Angel hard. She has lost her patience.
Mm-hmm. Are you going for a social effect or are you going for damage?
I had a whole thing about slapping somebody right in my...
You did. I did give you angry slap.
Mm-hmm. You did.
The Red Lady used slap. It was super effective.
Sure was, because that's 17. An open-handed slap, a contemptuous shove, a ringing forehead tap designed to insult and enrage, the Red Lady has mastered the art of antagonism.
Damage. 1 harm, emotional damage.
Emotional damage. Yeah. And a bonus on my next attack.
Yeah.
We are about to have 2 very angry babies.
Yep. I am trying to figure out how to be a shithead as David without being a chauvinist shithead. Which is like that's one of the challenges of like hitting this vintage of time period, is so much of the shitheadery is like
real
stuff
sexist.
I don't want to use. Yeah. So when you slap him, the thing that happens is that you peel stripes of his face off like rubber, like an old-fashioned solid rubber tire failing. And so you slap him and it's a full Jackie Chan, like head goes up and back. And he grabs those shards of skin and pulls them off as he turns his head back. And says, "Are you more mad that I tried to find her? Or are you more mad that you got your ass kicked?" Because this sounds like pride to me.
Does it matter?
Yeah, because I think that if you could have walked away from whatever you got in clean, you'd be cocky about it. You're only mad because you got dirty.
You are so trapped in the illusion you don't even know yourself. And you're trying to make fun of me. Hunter killer, you are 2 people in one, and you do not even have the worth of one.
Fuck like you.
Prove yourself fit to serve, hunter killer.
Okay, and he leaps at her.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. Yep.
Let's fucking do this.
Yep. Who boy. How's Samara? Samara good?
Oh yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're good. We're doing a weird bird dance. Like, we ready to do this.
Yeah.
These kids have some things they need to work out. This is not healthy coping. Please don't do this in real life.
Yes.
Please don't fight it out. Please go to therapy about it.
Yeah. Well, at this point, David is an NPC. So are you going to try to avoid harm, or are you going to try to engage in combat?
Very engaged in combat.
Okay.
Because she's got that piece of rebar in her hand.
Yeah.
And before he can fully make contact, she is going to try and baseball bat him to the dome.
Okay. Roll that
right
beautiful
now,
game footage.
Even more than beating him up, she wants to try and beat the human out of him because the human in him fucked up, in her opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That fell on the floor. That's what we're talking about.
Hi, Autopoet.
Hi, Autopoet. That is a 19. Plus that extra 1 that I just had.
Yeah, you inflict damage to your opponent and avoid counterattacks. How much harm do you want to do? I mean, I would say that I think a piece of rebar would probably be. No one look at me. It's my 40th birthday in like 6 weeks. No one look at me having to pull my glasses up. 129 to 130.
I think whatever harm this does, this bends the rebar and renders it unusable as a weapon.
Yeah,
it's going to inflict its own maximum damage, but this is a one-shot. This is a make-a-point attack.
Crushing weapon. You can pummel, maul, and crush for 2 harm. You can knock down and do 1 harm and get the knocked down status effect.
I'll do that one. I'll do 1 harm and knockdown.
Okay. So, you swat him out of his leap.
Mm-hmm.
And your expectation that the rebar is bent is absolutely correct. And it makes a ringing, brassy gong noise as it hits his head. And the rebar deforms, and there's a little cloud of sparks and some blood or possibly more accurately interstitial fluid that comes off of his head, and he slams down into a pile of bricks and pulls himself up, and you can see the expressions of himself start to arise. You can see the way he pulls himself up out of that pile like he is climbing a trench. And his hands reach like the backhoes that fill in mass graves. And when he stands, his eyes reflect the light of distant fire bombings. And you actually managed to avoid counterattacks because you got a really good score. So you actually get to take the initiative in this.
Oh, what does that mean?
That means that you get to take an active move.
Oh, cool.
Because you literally got the I avoid counterattacks option. So
she is standing there queenly. She looks like she is hot to the touch. She looks like cities dying in fire and death. And she does a not Wolverine. Lady Deathstrike.
Okay.
Just her hands are at her side and she does that motion and her hands extend into vicious looking claws, both hands. They're like her fingers are now each a foot long.
Okay.
And she looks at him and she says, "Prove yourself worthy." And she does a spinning kick to his dome.
Okay.
She's aiming for the head again, and she's not using those claws yet. She's just brought them out for effect.
Okay.
She is going to try and strike him down again. 11.
11. Total?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why I closed the page. That was foolish. Okay, so how much damage do you think? An unarmed attack is normally 1.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm fine going with 1.
Okay.
She's not aiming to totally destroy him at any point. She is shaming him.
Yeah.
She is putting him in his fucking place.
And
she doesn't need his loyalty, but she needs his obedience.
Mm-hmm. And that's what slipped.
It is clear to her that she will never get his loyalty. That is no longer even a little bit what she's after.
You kick him in the face, and he, however, takes the shot, and like the way heavy tank armor flexes and rebounds if viewed through a high-speed lens, his fist comes back up at you. Avoid harm.
Yeah. Now that is roll plus combat minus harm.
No,
right?
It's just plus combat. Endure injury is minus harm.
That's right. Thank you. 17.
Okay. You emerge completely unharmed. You are schooling David, which isn't entirely wrong. And he absolutely misses. Now, does he miss, or do you get out of the way?
Get out of the way.
Okay. And then it is clear that when he missed you, when you dodged him, something changed in him. There was like an anger level or something that made him realize that this is going to be slightly more serious. And so he says those 3 words again. Hot is dead.
That's right.
And that actually stops him for a second and gives him a look of deep, murderous, confused but not confused rage. You can see the 2 Davids inside him dealing with your confirmation of that differently. But his response is to like put his arms over his chest like he's trying to self-soothe almost for a moment. But then when he spreads his hands out, you can see things unfolding around his hands and parts of his arms, armatures and things expanding around his hands. And his claws are not long and spindly. They are thick and chisel-like. They're the kind of blunt, heavy things that you would use to punch through armor. The kinds of things that you could imagine slamming their way through Kevlar in 50 years. These heavy composite sintered metal things. And he charges you.
Cool.
So let's roll engage in combat one more time.
Okay. We both roll that?
Nope. NPCs don't roll dice.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I'm only kind of an NPC.
Realistically, had I thought about this a little bit more, I might have made David a PC sheet and it would have been dice v dice, but this is what's going to be tonight.
I want to see David's sheet. That'd be wild.
You probably ought to write David's sheet.
That is a total of 15.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
You are wearing his ass for a hat.
Mm-hmm. And what she does is she goes into a dervish spin. And there are more parts of her that are sharp than just her nails. They are her flowing hair that isn't flowing in the illusion. And it's a very nice updo, but her true self, that hair, every strand is sharp, and every feather at the bottom of her wings, all of those wings are sharp. And when she spin attacks, like she anticipates him coming in almost in an Aikido kind of way, but instead of meeting just that move of force, it's all blades.
Okay.
He runs into so many blades.
It is clear from the way he charges at you with those armor shredding claws out that he has lived an existence of face tanking the world. You know, he is used to just simply being unharmed or able to overcome the things that challenge him personally, at least physically. And so when you explode into motion and the crystalline ringing of an infinite number of sharpnesses striking across his face, shredding his skin and his illusion, because the only way he will survive this moment is to admit what is underneath his skin, shredding the front of him, pulling his face off, stripping away his eyes to reveal the gleaming technical lenses underneath. And the sparks shine, and it is almost entertaining because the number of strikes is so violent and so fast that you've almost polished him in that moment. And he shines in this kind of not the Metropolis metal, but in that iridescence of chrome that has a slight texture to the plating, so it kind of gets that rainbowy kind
Shiny
of look.
Shiny and chrome, baby.
Shiny and chrome, yeah. And it knocks him back hard. And he staggers back because you've actually legitimately kicked his ass. Like the dice have kicked his ass. Like he has not had a chance to do anything. You have just, even in your injured and angry state, have just absolutely beat the whole shit out of David, which is kind of entertaining. And he staggers back and looks at you, and his mouth is kind of hanging open in shock. He doesn't have all of the expression micromotors that he might need, but you can see his mouth hanging open in shock, and the way his shoulders are is that like fuck sort of way. And I imagine the look you give him says, "Prove yourself to me again." You don't have to say the words anymore, do you? He can hear it ringing around in his mind. And he reaches underneath his left arm and pulls out of his body that used to be a KULT M1911 and levels it at you. Are you going to be able to do anything aside from get out of the way?
Yeah. She's going to remind him what it is they're both fighting for. And in this semi-real, semi-illusory state, next to her, ethereal, not entirely there, clearly an illusion, even to him, is Bethany, wearing a crown of light and jewels and knives, clad in a robe that is the night sky and burning and metallic sheen. And the Red Lady has her arm draped casually over this illusion's shoulder, with her long, long claws just hanging down over Bethany's shoulder. Not to attack at all, but to defend. And it is clearly saying, remember, we are working toward the same goal. Show me you're not going to do anything stupid for it again.
How about you roll influence?
Sure.
There's a lot going on here. Let's put some randomization into this moment.
Sounds good.
Yes. Hello, people. Looks like some of our older friends have shown up. Hello, new people. Hello, people that have been here before. If you are just sticking your nose in, David thought he saw Bethany and fucking ding-dong ditched the Red Lady, and went chasing her down, led them both directly into a trap, and the Red Lady got Ides of Marched by a bunch of jackals or deranged homeless people, depending on your level of description, and got stabbed by pieces of her own name.
He did not like that at all.
Her whole ass name. And so she is hurt and angry and mad as hell and is trying to bring David to heel. And it's going both really well and really not. So
yeah.
What you got?
You're gonna love this. I rolled a 2. I got a 1 and a 1.
Oh my God.
I will show you these fucking dice. No, you can't really see them on the screen. I swear to God, I rolled a 1 and a 1.
What you think you did, Red Lady, is you thought you kind of did the remember, this is what we're here for. Remember the person you're weirdly obsessed about? Remember? We're here for Bethany. We're here for Bethany. Remember? What you thought you did kind of Jeopardy lady, Vanna White.
Yeah. The intent was I am standing behind my queen. What it translated to,
a little bit more Sweeney Todd.
Yeah. That's exactly what just happened.
You aimed for Vanna White and hit Sweeney Todd. So
we're not great at reality right now, so
no. So what you thought was meant to be like a look, David, it turned into a I will slit her throat if you don't calm down. And it is an evidence of how deeply tired and angry and beat up and impatient the Red Lady is that something so simple as physical intimidation was handled poorly. And you see it, and you see exactly too late what you did wrong. And so when David There's words in my brain. I just need to make them all come out of my mouth. And so as David, it's this slow motion movement, and Red Lady, you're not entirely certain what the gun is now. You know that it is a piece of his hunter-killer. You know that it is his Croaca Moors. It is his, Gabolg. It is his weapon. And it adjusts from kind of a gut shot, and you see the barrel, and it looks you right in the eye. And you can feel the suction of the underworld in it. There is just a little hole in the world where death lives in that barrel, and he starts to squeeze. And you think, well, at least it doesn't have my name on it. And in the infinite moments of a non-human creature, a creature that is only person-shaped because it is convenient, the same way a soap bubble is round, you kind of unhinge your consciousness from temporal law, and you take a moment to think. What is your plan if you are so terribly injured? What are you going to do? What's your last minute escape? Do you even have one right now?
Don't think she does. There are plenty of sacks of flesh she can gorge upon. This will not be the end of her. The most important thing is making this fucking point. Mm-hmm. And so, if she needs to, she will absorb that whatever kind of bullet is coming at her. She will open the illusion, open her own self, and take it in and keep it in her, and take whatever harm comes from eating it, neutralizing it, nullifying it. But what is most important to her right now is still standing afterwards.
I love it. Roll endure harm. Let's say it's a -4.
Okay.
So plus combat -4.
13.
13. Okay. It's not a 9.
Not a 9. We love those middling rolls.
Yeah, the injury throws you off balance, you lose something, or you receive a serious wound. I think that it's the serious wound sounds right.
Oh yeah.
Because you let the death arrow of a hunter killer into you.
Yep.
You know, and tried to do that. Yeah. Once upon a time, 100 years ago, I went to an underground death metal bar in West Virginia. And the only thing they served was Everclear and unlabeled bottles. And I was dumb and approximately 19, and I got my masculinity challenged. And I drank a double shot of probably moonshine.
Oh, Ben, no.
Yeah, straight, no chaser. It was a bad time, but that is the closest thing in my physical memory to call upon for what the Red Lady is feeling right now, of just like, ooh, I just put poison in me on purpose, and I have to stand here and let it ravage me on the inside and look perfectly calm on the inside. On the outside, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. And you feel things inside you tear and hurt and bleed. And there is a moment of realization that David legitimately could kill you. If he really decides it's go time.
She does not let show.
Yeah.
Her illusion is all but shattered. this went within her true self that doesn't have a set form beyond the illusion. It is regal. It is eyes. It is wings. It is fire. It is humanoid.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, there is a black hole in her gut. Because outside the illusion, it looked like she actually caught between her teeth and swallowed whatever he shot at her.
Okay.
And now it has clearly done some damage. There is not like death becomes her like a hole in her, like a void, a true black hole that bends the edges of her around it.
An event horizon.
Yeah. But she is standing and she's looking at him. David's, sweet David's, hunter killer. I don't need your loyalty. I simply need a lack of mistakes.
I cannot conceive of a reason why that wouldn't work at this point. Like, yeah, I mean, you pretty much took everything he had and just walked away with it.
I wouldn't go that far.
But to him,
yes.
Like you beat him down and then just ate his ace.
And the important thing is that he does not know how damaging that ace was. What he knows now is that ace won't work.
Yeah. And there is a moment of Max Headroomish style herky jerk twitching as pieces of what is David enter into conflict with each other. And you see his eyes kind of his eye lenses kind of expand and contract, and the colors behind them shift through a kaleidoscope. And you can watch pieces of his body change as he thinks. It's like his mindset affects the way he looks under the illusion. You can watch rasping spikes rise on his arms and sink. And you can see kind of as he opens his mouth maybe to say something, but you can actually watch his teeth like slide back into his mouth, and you can see saw blades drop down for a minute, like rising like shark fins in the ocean, and then disappear, and then teeth again. And I wouldn't say that he calms down. I would say that he decides to try to kill you the rest of the way later.
Reasonable.
Yes, by the way. And he puts the gun back where his lung used to be. And starts walking towards the Red Lady. It's a very brisk walk, It is not a peaceful walk, but it is not a charge.
She lifts her head, and she is tall beyond the illusion. It's not clear what height she is. She is taller than whoever she is facing.
Yes. And he is standing there like a statue made of carbide, with his arms crossed. So what tried to kill you?
Jackals.
You mean dogs?
And she makes a visible effort not to call him an imbecile and rile him up all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Servants of someone working against us. They had knowledge they did not understand. They had tools they could not have created on their own. They were controlled by someone else. Someone who knows us and what we are doing.
Well, let's see what you left. I'll see if I can figure anything out.
And she points to where they were. And as he turns and goes that way, she folds all her wings into herself, completely wrapping around, pulling her reality around herself and recreating some sort of illusion, knitting back together some mundane reality so nobody sees an angel walking around the streets of Las Vegas. And the best she can come up with in her injured state is still bloody, dress torn, clearly the remains, like the dress is complete over it, but there's some sort of abdominal wound underneath it, so there's blood seeping through.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, it's a black dress, but you can see those darkening stains.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of shakes herself off back into the illusion and walks very carefully behind him. Not careful of him, careful of keeping all of your injuries from reopening.
Yes. I regrettably know that walk all too well. By the time David gets to the pillars of salt that used to be people, he has also let himself be ensnared by the illusion again. To the lady, it is a tool. To David, it is quicksand, always pulling at him. And for him to push against it consciously is to admit that he is more than one person, to admit that something happened to him, to address it. And of course, we can't have that.
Certainly not.
He crouches down and he picks up the knife and looks at it. And this is one of the weapons that you cleaned. So what is left on it?
In the illusion, it looks like someone scraped away whatever was carved in. Mm-hmm. So it's carved even further down, and it's unclean, and it's if someone used the knife too hard, it would snap because so much of the metal has been worn away.
He looks at it, and he kind of he gives it almost like a sommelier's whiff. Like he runs the blade right underneath his nose and takes like a long contemplative sniff, and then runs the back of the blade across his tongue and kind of stares into the middle distance. And the thing is even though that's a really crazy thing to do, and there's a little bit of that kind of like highfalutenness about it, because it is very much kind of like an elegant wine tasting sort of hand gesture, the look on his face is so very like farm boy blue collar. You know, because because the look on his face is very much like, how am I going to fix the roof of the barn today?
Yeah. This wine smells like grapes.
Yes.
And other grapes. Yeah.
And as much as we like to stand David, David is a very toxic piece of shit. In many ways, he is very appropriate for the Van Horsts. And so right now, a person who was not trapped as heavily by toxic masculinity as he is by the horrors of war would probably do something like apologize right now. This would be the perfect time to apologize. But it's David, so he's not.
No.
But there's kind of that pause where he acknowledges the moment where he should and lets it go. Not in a like, fuck you, I'm choosing not to apologize, but in that like, that's not what I do.
I do something with my actions that can be construed as an apology, and we never talk about it with words ever again.
Ever again. We will never discuss our feelings ever again. Yes.
Never, ever.
No. And he says, and the question he asks you is a little bit of a curveball. And he says, do you have acid for blood?
I don't have traditional blood.
Do you have acid for anything in there?
And there is a moment of her, in the same way that David sometimes has to look inward, usually as a protective gesture, she's doing it as like doing a mental inventory. Yes.
Because this blade was acid etched. I can smell the chemistry. I can smell the reaction of the acid. Did you bleed? Did you leak acid on this?
No.
But you scratched it up and scrubbed it up like this?
Yes. I took away its power.
It was acid. They drew on it with acid. Does that mean anything to you?
Yes.
Well, we can't go back to St. Dimphnis tonight.
No. And I believe the hardware store has closed for the evening.
Yeah.
And she, much in the way that he scented the air to follow whatever it was he was trying to follow earlier. She scans the horizon. Reading the map of the city before her, and she goes, "There's a motel that way."
Wow. Want to go be the most interesting thing that happened to them this year?
And she picks up that hammer that she dropped earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And she hefts it. And she does just a little flip. Catches it again. Let's go. And it is clear that she is just taking a souvenir.
Okay. He doesn't escort her, but he walks next to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's that, like, I will not offer you my arm, but if you stumble, my arm will suddenly be next to you.
Yeah.
It's
And her pride is overriding the need to needle him, so she does not try and take his arm.
Yeah.
She is again holding herself together very delicately and very purposefully to look as normal as possible, despite definitely looking like she's been beat to hell and back.
Yeah. And when they get to the motel, and it's something like, you know, Desert Dream Motel or something like that.
With a big neon sign with a bunch of ridiculous stuff on it. It is the kind of place that is not going to ask a lot of questions.
No, absolutely. You are fairly certain that if you ask the right way, they will charge by the hour. David says, "I'm not covered in blood. I'll go get a room."
She just nods.
So he goes in.
What does he look like right now? Because he also took some damage.
He is absolutely, like, he has marks across his face that look like old war scars. It's like you could almost imagine in the right light the way shrapnel went across his face. And his clothes, his clothes were toast. And so he actually is wearing a vaguely fitting but entirely unpleasant jacket from one of the jackals. And he looks a mess, but this is also a motel that charges by the hour and at the height of Mob Vegas.
Yeah.
And you can see, he's got he just looks like he's got shrapnel scars across his face, and you can see the double dog tags hanging, and you can almost see the beginnings of his chest his pectoral tattoo. Has the red lady seen him with his shirt off?
No.
Like in a non-scandalous way? Okay.
No, not at all. This will be the first time they have stayed in the same room.
Oh my God, there was only one bed.
There was only one bed.
Okay. So just referencing that hilariously. So I have every confidence that the lady in red can read lips.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so you only get the half of the conversation from the night clerk. And you hear him say, like, there's a room with a king and it's this many dollars. And he says, David says something. And he says, we don't have any beds with 2 rooms. We don't have any rooms with 2 beds. And David, like, does a, like, like, I need you to hear me right now. And he's very calm, but the red lady has never seen David be more awkward in this moment. And he's like, and he goes, yeah, there's an empty one, but it's not ready. And David reaches in, and you think he's going to pull the fucking gun because he's right there. He's right on the edge of violence. There's a very real, and so he pulls out his money clip. And in a display of pure financial audacity that would make Matthew Van Horst both gasp and cheer.
He'd be so proud.
Like, he would clutch his pearls, but then also be like, that's my boy. He just starts throwing bills at him. Like, just 5s and 10s, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just, you can see that his jaw isn't moving and he's just making eye contact. And there's this little fluttering cloud of money in front of the guy. And he finally, he's lines it all up and opens the register. And you see like a little thing where like some of it goes under the register, like under the money. And he kind of hides some of it. And he says, give me 10 minutes. And this guy who's clearly used to like not giving a shit, he's just supposed to sell hookers rooms for for however many, a couple bucks an hour. Like, he knows what his business is. And so he goes and he bangs on a door and he has a small argument with someone in the room. And then you see a lady who's probably, yep, that's the cleaning lady, because she's going and getting stuff. And you can imagine the conversation. Like, wake the fuck up. I need you to clean a room. Like, it's 2:00 in the morning. I do not need to clean up a room. I need you to clean up a fucking room right now. Look, I will give you $20 right now. Just fucking go clean up 15B right now. And so she goes, and it takes a little while. It's more than 10 minutes. But David comes back out and he has 2 room keys. And he hands you one and he says, sorry, they're cleaning up the only one with 2 beds.
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm willing to wait too.
And she is relatively quiet. It is clear, because David saw it in the car to Radium's place the other day. She's kind of in slight power down mode. She is knitting her insides back together. And so she is content to sit quietly. And when their room is finally ready,
yes,
at the last second as they're going in, she blows a kiss to the cleaning lady. She knows she looks like shit, but she also clearly looks like she's got a story to tell.
Yeah. The cleaning lady has no idea what to do with that. Okay. Because, like, regrettably, this kind of establishment is not a stranger to battered-looking women being let into hotel rooms at late hours. It's an extremely unpleasant fact of the world. But the fact that you, like, give her a wink and blow her a kiss is in like, yes, I'm bloody. Yes, my eyes are bleeding. Yes, I'm bruised. Yes, that guy looks like a fucking walking to like a disaster. But I'm in a mood that lets me blow you a kiss. Mm-hmm. She's just like pure confusion.
Yeah, that's the part that throws her off. And that's that little sprinkle of madness that just a little mint on the pillow.
And you can almost see her like 30 years from now, an old lady, like telling her granddaughter,
Oh yeah.
Like she won't directly teach her the extra threats that women face, but she will tell a number of stories that provide the lessons. She won't tell her to avoid the woods, but she will tell her about the big bad wolf.
Yes.
And one of those stories is, if something looks creepy, leave it the fuck alone. And that is the story that has the red lady in it.
Oh, yes.
Of that, like, I do not know what it was, but I never asked.
A lady and a gentleman, and I do not want to know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And in the room, she curls up, like sitting, but with her legs tucked under her, almost like a cat settling into their little cat bed. And she's still definitely in that powered down mode. But she's considering. And it's clear from her expression that she is debating how weird it would be for David if she called a sex worker. It would probably be weird. We're in the same room because neither of us trust each other alone right now, so maybe that's not my best method, but gosh, it is kind of the best method. And that's her face journey, and she doesn't care that he can see that face journey because fuck it.
He has no idea what she's thinking. He has no idea what the fuck she's thinking.
That's probably for the best.
And he's looking at her and he's like, do you want me to step out so you can, like, change?
No.
Okay. Do you want to use the bath?
Perhaps. And her answers are a little bit dreamy, as if she's tired or a little bit high. That kind of slightly disconnected.
And in the closest thing you will probably ever get to an apology, short of physical torture, David says, whenever I get messed up, I always feel better after I get clean. You may want to get clean before you finish falling asleep.
Perhaps.
You know, get the top layer off at least.
I may need to peel back several layers.
In the universal, as long as I don't have to fucking watch you do it, hand gesture of shooting.
Yeah. And as she's considering that bath, because that actually does sound pretty nice, the most unexpected thing happens.
Okay, what happens?
At this hotel at 2:30 going on 3 in the morning, fucking doorbell rings.
David tenses. Like, you can almost hear the titanium spikes like slide out of his shoulders and neck in a defensive position. And he very calmly and quietly, like a silent running submarine in pitch black and midnight water, goes to the window and very carefully pulls it aside and shuts it. And the door knocks again. And David looks at the red lady with a face of absolute perplexion and mouths to her, "Jehovah's Witnesses."
She slow blinks at him a couple times and then uncurls herself from the bed and stands up expectantly.
They knock a third time, and David opens the door. And in a voice with an ever so slight, like, it's that perfect amount of brogue. Like, it's the gold leaf amount of brogue, just that perfect seductive burr to his voice. He says, "Gentlemen, please come in." And the door shuts, and the room goes very dark and very quiet and very red.
There are two grins glinting in that red light. And see.
That's it. I'm going to say thank you one more time and then say goodnight. So
Yes.
Thank you and good night.